There is something simply magical about the design philosophies behind Fromsoftware's games, such as Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring. And I think one of the beautiful aspects of video games on the whole is that they're able to instill upon you life lessons and just different ways of thinking that you may not ordinarily have been exposed to at some point in time. Or they make you think a little bit deeper about a particular concept that you maybe understood, or at least you thought you did, but you truly didn't accept it or completely understand that. And I think that's one of the beautiful aspects about From Software and the overall game design and the overarching message that they're trying to instill upon the player. You see, I've been sick for the past 2 weeks or so, and I've been playing Dark Souls 1 in my off time. And while many people who have not really played Dark Souls or only dipped their toe into it may view it to be a stressful experience and a game that's meant to rage bait you, honestly, I find the game more relaxing and soothing than anything. And this can apply to the other FromSoft games as well, just with slightly different pivots to a different emotion that's trying to resonate with you. You see, back in the day, Dark Souls 1 was my first ever Soulsborne game. I played Armored Core way back when, but I really just focused on 1v1s against my cousin, which were a ton of fun, don't get me wrong. But there's a few games that truly affected me, and kinda changed the way I thought about gaming, and Dark Souls 1 was one of those games. I remember setting out to beat Dark Souls 1 simply because it was considered a hard game, by some people the hardest game of all time, and that may not be true, but beating Dark Souls 1 back in the day was viewed to be a big challenge and to prove your self-worth as a gamer. And I thought it would be fun, so I set out to do so, and the thing I didn't realize was how much I'd simply love the world of Dark Souls 1, and how much that game would engross me. And I think over time I kinda forgot about that until I sunk my teeth back into DS1 and played it all over again, and all those emotions and feelings that I had way back when, years and years ago, came flooding back. And I think that's the enduring legacy of a game like Demon's Souls or Dark Souls 1, is that this feeling was brought forward in their games. And we have seen how successful a game like Elden Ring has become, and how anticipated, and arguably the most anticipated game of the year for 2024, isn't even a full game, it's a DLC for Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. And it's funny, because if you look at a game like Elden Ring, you would never think a game like that would become mainstream, simply because of how difficult the game can be for a lot of people, and how unrelenting the game can be. But while a lot of conversation around FromSoft games, even back in the days of Demon's Souls and Dark Souls 1, stemmed around the idea that the game didn't have difficulty options, and that some people viewed that as a negative, to me it was a positive, because it highlighted and showcased one of the beautiful aspects that can go really unappreciated in the video games medium, and that is weaving in these ideas and these concepts in untraditional manners. You see, I would argue games like Dark Souls 1 or Elden Ring have difficulty options, but they come in terms of the tools that you utilize in the game. You're not going to have a way to just go to easy mode and all that. The game is going to present to you a singular challenge, and in the case of Elden Ring, one of the first singular challenges that it throws at you is Margit the Fell Omen. He is a big baddie, someone you have to learn how to play around, and maybe at a point in time when you meet him, you aren't equipped for whatever reason. You just don't have the skill set, you're not used to the combat, or whatever. You can go out, gain the tools that the game provides you, because it gives you a massive part of the world to explore before you can even go to Margit, level up, get better at the game, learn the controls, learn the timings, learn all of that, and then you can go back and utilize what you just learned and acquired to take down Margit the Fell Omen, or you can say, screw it, it's you and me. I'm not locked in here with you, you are locked in here with me. And you can learn, and you can get better. Because the singular lesson that a lot of these games are trying to instill is not to fear failure. And that's the important thing. And that's the beautiful lesson that I'm kind of been alluding to in regards to Dark Souls or Elden Ring throughout this entire video, is that the idea behind these games is to not fear failure, where you don't view death as a failure state. because you can immediately come back and go back at it again. You may be punished a little bit by losing your souls or your whatever they're called in any given game. You can go get them back if you want to, but you're still there, ready to go again. The idea that you don't have to fear failure, and that failure in the game is you simply die but you come back. And that can translate to the real world, where obviously once you die, that's it in the real world. But that's not kind of what they're going for in regards to dying in Dark Souls Elden Ring. It's just you failing. That's not the end of it. Because to quote Jurassic Park, life finds a way. We keep going, we keep struggling, one foot in front of the other. We may get knocked down periodically, but we have the choice every given time that we fail to not let it keep us down, but to get back up. It's not like when you die in the game that it completely erases your character or whatever. There's some consequence, don't get me wrong, but in the grand scheme of things, is it that much? It may hurt in the short term, but in the long run of it all, it's not going to be a permanent setback. At least a one of any meaningful degree. Just because we died to a boss, does that mean it was all for naught? No, because each of those deaths is a lesson for the future. When you die to a boss in Elden Ring, or Dark Souls, or whatever, or you die to any given mechanic, you know exactly what it is that killed you. The game doesn't hide it. It's not like it tries to masquerade the reality of the situation from the player. No, it's very obvious. Oh, you got hit by this mechanic. You got hit by the shockwave of this, like, downward thrust. Oh, too many enemies ganged up on you and stabbed you repeatedly. Oh, you got knocked off the edge because you blocked an arrow that an enemy was firing at you and had a knockback or whatever. Oh, you were fighting on a ledge and you did an attack, but your character moves because of that attack and you got knocked off the edge because of that. If you are observant and you are paying attention to what's happening, those are all lessons that you can learn. And it's not a guarantee that the exact next try that you undergo, that everything will be forged in iron and rectified, right? You may fail again, and you may fail in the exact same way, but you can pick yourself back up again. You return to the bonfire, or the site of grace, and you keep marching on. Because death in the game is not something that needs to be feared, the same with failure. And some hurt more than others, don't get me wrong, right? And we may have to retread a lot of progress that we just lost because of our own carelessness, or because we're still in the process of learning and getting better. Getting good, if you will. But that doesn't mean that it was all for naught, and that nothing mattered, or that we just wasted time. No, it's an experience, a lesson that can be learned. And the way that you get better at this game, or at these games, is by dying, funnily enough. Is by learning what not to do and how the world and how the game can punish you for being a bit too greedy or a little bit too passive or whatever. Augmenting your strategy, learning what you did wrong and trying to rectify that. And you may not always get it right. You may relapse, you may fall back, or repeat a similar mistake, but each time is another opportunity to take that lesson to heart. And once it finally clicks, and it finally clicks in your head, and you learn what to do, the boss can fall, and you can win, victorious, because of the lessons that you learned and that you put in. For instance, in my Dark Souls 1 playthrough, way back when, I didn't struggle with the Moonlight Butterfly at all. I think I one-tapped that stupid thing. But in my recent playthrough, I kept wiping to it, and I wiped like 7 or 8 times, and I'm like, what's going on here? What am I doing wrong? I'm getting hit by this magic that I don't think I should be getting hit by. Do you know how I fixed that? I stood near the ledge, because there's a little wall. Only goes up about to your ankle, but for quite a few of the quicker magic attacks that the butterfly does, if you're right up close to it and against the wall, one of the salvos will just hit the wall and you'll be fine. And I did that and the butterfly died. What about Chaos Witch Kalog? Took me about another 7 or 8 tries. I kept getting hit by attacks that I felt like I should be able to dodge. Then I just learned the positioning and I learned how to punish, where to punish, and how to bait certain animations and certain attacks so that I can be in control of the fight. I did a stream for Elden Ring not too long ago, well, at this point maybe a little bit long ago, where I fought Margit the Fell Omen. And way back when in my first Elden Ring playthrough, where the lessons that I'm talking about in this video didn't particularly click with me, and I still cared about actually dying, I used summons, I used a whole bunch of crap, right? But in this recent playthrough, I wanted to do mostly just strength. I didn't want to use summons and stuff like that. So I decided I'm gonna fight Margit the Fell Omen by myself. No summons, no outside help, just me and him, and a few chat suggestions. And it took a while, right? Because I had to relearn how to play the game. I was out of practice, I was out of touch. But over time, and sometimes I died in phase 1 or 2 or whatever, I got better. I learned how to punish, and I learned where to be, how to bait certain attacks, how to react to certain attacks, etc, etc. And I eventually even decided to take off my chest piece and be essentially naked for a fast roll, because it was getting to the point where I was starting to actually do phase 1 without getting hit. It wasn't like every pull, but they were starting to come together. And eventually Market the Fell Omen fell down. And it was a great moment, because the lessons I learned culminated in that golden run. Many would have probably considered myself to be underpowered or whatever, but that's how I chose to take down that challenge. And you can fail in these games and in life and in any number of ways due to your own hubris or your own naivety. The game can come at you fast or slow, but failure can come either way, but it can teach us something, give us a lesson that we can take into the future to learn from. And maybe we don't get it immediately. Maybe it takes us a little bit to truly understand and internalize the lesson, but it's a step. And when it comes to life, failure is going to be a step. And we all take, at some point in time, that lesson. We all are gonna fail at something, right? Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. I failed a bunch of times. And we can view that as the end-all be-all, that the world's gonna stop spinning, and that just because we failed in this one singular thing, that everything was for naught in life. Or we can view it as a lesson, to pick ourselves back up. And when you stop fearing failure in Souls, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, life, whatever, it makes it so that you can pick yourself back up quicker. Analyze the situation, where did you go wrong, because these games can be a very humbling experience, by design. But if you really want to take a look in the man in the mirror, and internalize the lesson for what it is, and view failure not as the end point but a step that we all take at some point in time, and that maybe it's not even us getting knocked back, but maybe knocked forward, and maybe it gives us a new goalpost to strive for. Like, think of it like this: when you first start out in a game, your goal is probably to beat it, right? When you first play Elden Ring or Dark Souls, chances are your immediate thought is, I'm gonna beat this game. Yeah, I'm gonna get to the end, I'm gonna do my best, I'm gonna beat the game. And then the wall happens. You get slapped down by a big boss that says, no sir, you are here with me. Yeah, it takes two to tango. Prepare your dancing shoes. And now you're locked in that room. You are locked in that struggle. All of a sudden, you're no longer focusing in on beating the overall game. In that moment, chances are, if you're like me, you're focused on beating that boss, that encounter, that singular wall in front of you. And you can go around it, you can go over it, you can go under it. You can utilize whatever methodology you want to do, because that's the beauty of these games. They give you the tools, you have to figure out how to use them. Build a window, build a door, go over it, go around it, go under it, whatever. Or you can go through it. Learn what it's trying to teach you, and take your big sword and smash it down because you can. And that's kind of the funny thing about these games, is that failure may give you a goalpost that in the immediate future seems a little bit more achievable, or a little bit more obtainable. It's not some far-off ephemeral goal anymore. It's a little thing that you can strive for to overcome and get that sense of accomplishment at the other side of it. At the end of the day, this is just a video game, right? We can all agree here. But this is the lesson that it's trying to teach you. And that's one of the reasons why I feel that these games have gripped the hearts of minds of so many people out there. Because this is a very powerful lesson for a lot of people out there that at some point in time you probably are going to have to learn. Because if you let yourself get bogged down with every failure, you're never going to get anywhere, because you're spending most of your time feeling sorry for yourself on the ground. Whereas if you internalize these lessons and stop viewing failure as this end-all be-all, and obviously there's like some nuance to this if you want to carry this conversation over to the real world, right? Obviously. But as a general rule of thumb, you can decide to stay on the ground or pick yourself back up and try again. Or go for a different strategy. Retool the things that you have at your disposal to try and overcome whatever life throws at you. And maybe we failed for an entire day, or a week, or a month, or whatever. But the important thing is that eventually we can find a way to win. To utilize those failures to make ourselves better and stronger. To scrape ourselves clean of the metaphorical dirt, viscera, and muck that we can find ourselves surrounded in when we fall down, to stop feeling sorry for ourselves and to keep going forward. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's just a video game. But I think there's something special about the video game medium, and also any medium really, but particularly I care about video games. And that sense of interactivity helps like instill these kind of things, you know? Because you're an active participant. And I think that's why these games have stuck so much with so many people. Because you may understand this lesson on its face value, or you may not. But if you beat a Soulsborne game, you at least have undertook that lesson. And you may not fully understand what it is that you learn, but you know that you learned something. And sometimes it's all that we can do, and all that we can be happy with. Because even a single step, a step in the future, a step towards tomorrow is progress. And if you want to become Elden Lord, or Ronnie's consort like I did, yeah look, I know you all out there felt the same as me. We have the stats for this, yeah? Or you want to light the fires in Dark Souls, or become the hunter in Bloodborne, or make a sick-ass montage in Sekiro, let's be fair here. That game is really cinematic. If you play these games and you view each failure as a failure, and you get completely upset about this, chances are you may not enjoy the game on the whole, or you may enjoy it for a different reason. But I think the people that become fully engrossed in these games are the people that stop viewing dying as his end-all be-all. Because the only way you're gonna ever beat the game is by making that single step in that moment. That when you die or when you mess up, you decide to keep on going. Because sometimes it's all we can do. And I think that's why FromSoft games work so well, and why I love how the games tackle difficulty. They'll give you all these tools, but they're gonna give you a singular challenge. And it's because of that singular challenge that when you overcome it, that it feels so sweet. Because there's no strings attached. You can choose how to overcome it, whether you want to use magic, incantations, dexterity, strength builds. You want to become an immovable tank, whatever you want to do. You have the tools at your disposal. Figure out some combination that works for you to overcome it. That boss isn't going to change. It's not going to move. But you can. The world is static. The world will present you challenges and unique situations that you have to either react to or anticipate. But you can react, and you can anticipate it. And you can learn from each of those times that the game swats you down. And I think that's why I'm really liking these games now, and why they've kind of clicked for me, especially now, like they did way back when for Dark Souls, and I kind of lost over time. But it started to click again for me. And who knows? Maybe I made this video just because I have Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring brain rot right now, and I just wanted to yap on about it. Let's be fair here, that's kind of the reason I made this video. But at the same time, I think that's why I love these games so much. Because there's a lot to love about them, a lot to learn and appreciate, just so long as you're willing to go a little bit further. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe, have a great day. Leave a comment down below with what's your favorite FromSoft game, and what's your favorite moment from it. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and to hear your stories. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.